a 50 up, make them tie the club up. Took your bitch out the game, I had to sub up. Swap. No masterpiece.
Black man in America for the past 400 years has been like a boy in the white man's house, begging the white man for a job, for food, clothing, and shelter. And then after the white man provides him with all of these things, he turns around and has the nerve to get angry at the white man when the white man tries to control his life. How can people, a group of people such as our people, who own no factories, have equal job opportunities competing against a race that owns the factories? The only way the two can have equal job opportunities is if black people have factories as well as white people have factories. And then we can employ whites or we can employ blacks, just like they can employ whites or they can employ blacks. But as long as the factories are in the hands of the whites, the housing is in the hands of the whites, the school system is in the hands of the whites, you have a situation where the blacks are constantly begging the whites, can they use this or can they use that? That's not any kind of equality of opportunity, nor does it lend toward one's dignity.
Malcolm X is saying that in America, black people are basically economically helpless to the white man because the white man is who owns all of the land and the businesses. White Americans own more than 98% of U.S. land, amounting to 856 million acres, which is worth over $1 trillion. African Americans own less than 1% of rural land in the country, which is a value of $14 billion. According to the Census Bureau, there's about 8 million minority-owned businesses in America. And of these, about 2.5 million are owned by African Americans. Black-owned firms account for about 10% of the 27 million American businesses. 16 Fortune 500 companies released their diversity numbers data in 2017, which showed that white men account for 72% of corporate leadership positions at those companies. By the end of 2014, there were 5.4 million companies with paid employees in America. Only 17.5% of these businesses were minority-owned. The minority-owned businesses generated $1.1 trillion in receipts, which is slightly more than 3% of the $33 trillion collected across the country. I do apologize for throwing all these numbers and dates and statistics at you. I'm just trying to back up the fact that white people pretty much financially own America.
Instead of the Negro leaders having the black man begging for a chance to dine in white restaurants, the Negro leader should be showing the black man how to do something to strengthen his own economy, to give himself an independent economy, or to provide job opportunities for himself. Not begging for a cup of coffee in a white man's restaurant. Number one, he must have a knowledge of himself, and this gives him confidence in himself. He has been brainwashed by the educational system that exists here in America to the point where he feels he was a savage in the jungle when he was before he was brought here, and this destroys his morale. So the number one thing that has to be done, he has to be retaught, he has to be re-educated and made to know that he's a man like anyone else, and then he can stand on his own 2 feet like others. Then if the black man, the black leadership, who has access to all of this money and has all of these degrees today, can't use his talent and his know-how to set up business opportunities, job opportunities, housing opportunities for the black people, the same as the white leaders have done for white people.
Malcolm suggested to black leaders to teach their community to invest in themselves. Keep money circulating within the community instead of throwing it at white or Asian companies that consistently disrespect and neglect black people. He wants the black youth to learn to value themselves. Learn about economics, entrepreneurship. Learn how to spend money wisely so that it works for you rather than the other way around.
If white immigrants can come to this country 50 years ago with nickels and dimes and no education, and come here and pool their little nickels and dimes and no education, and set up little stores, develop these stores into larger stores, develop this into an industry which creates job opportunities for whites. Since Lincoln was supposed to have freed the black man 100 years ago, and today the black man, according to the government economists, has spending power of $20 billion per year. We feel that with the black man spending $20 billion a year, not setting up any businesses, not creating any industry, not creating any job opportunities for his own kind, he's not in a moral position to point the finger today at the white man and tell the white man that he's discriminating against him for not giving him a job in factories that he himself set up. If the black man has $20 billion, and these so-called Negro leaders are such geniuses that they can integrate white restaurants and integrate white factories and force themselves into that which the white man has set up, they should use this same ingenuity to show the black people how to pool our wealth and set up something of our own.
He's talking about how if poor white people can pick themselves up by the bootstraps, then so can poor black people, but personally I have to disagree. Nielsen reported in 2018 that the African American population has a combined buying power of $1.2 trillion. This information was shown by itself and not compared to other races' buying powers or other years of data. So some black people were celebrating this information as if it's a good thing, but in reality, it's misleading. First off, buying power does not equal wealth. Buying power is a marketing term which companies that are often white-owned use to determine how much money a community is collectively spending on products and services, so that they can then target that group better as their consumers. And so that $1 trillion isn't just sitting there idly waiting to be spent on building and investing in better schooling systems or building black businesses. That's propaganda created to blame the poor people for being poor, saying that they don't have enough financial literacy or that their bad spending habits are the reason why they got themselves into the poverty situation. In actuality, poverty is an intended result of a social and economic system. A system, by the way, that goes all the way back to the 1400s when Europeans brought Africans to America and made their fortune off selling these Africans and the products the African slaves created for the slave masters. And when poor whites wanted to rebel against the rich whites, alongside the black slaves, the white slave owners gave the white servants 50 acres and freedom, but gave the black people nothing. The term buying power is often seen as positive by many white people who continuously are emptying black pockets. The Asian American population is half the size of the African American population, but they produce the same amount of buying power. And a lot of that buying power comes from debt, loans, liabilities, credit cards. It's what people spend. Wealth, on the other hand, is what you keep. It isn't measured by income, but by net worth. It's measured by assets, what you keep, minus liabilities, what you owe. And how do you know that your income isn't wealth? Because your salary, unlike stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses, etc., your salary can't be passed down to your children. Black people make up 13% of America's population, but own only 2.7% of the country's wealth. Federal data shows that the median wealth of white families is 13 times that of the median wealth of black families. That is not an accident.
We should own and operate and control the economy of our community. You would never find, you can't open up a black store in a white community. White man won't even patronize you. And he's not wrong. He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you who don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses under the pretext that you want to integrate.
I don't necessarily think that it's a matter of letting the white, Asian, Jewish people come into the black community like he says. I think it's an unfair economic advantage that white people have held over minority communities from the start. Black people have been criminalized since slavery. They make up 40% of the incarcerated population in America. They're 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than whites. Between 2010 to 2012, young black males were 21 times more likely to be killed by police than their white counterparts. According to PNAS, since 1989, whites have received on average 36 more callbacks for interviews than black people. For every $100 in white family wealth, which means the money that you keep and that you don't spend, black families hold only $5.04. Black families in America earn $57.30 for every $100 earned in income by white families. Workplace discrimination has not seen any change in the level of hiring discrimination against African Americans in the past 25 years. There's so many factors that are integrated into everyday life, starting at birth, that try to hold back the Black community from rising up, not just economically or financially, but in general. Educational inequalities, neighborhood effects, parenting, workplace discrimination, rates of incarceration, access to credit, historical exclusion from homeownership, lower rates of upward mobility, and so on.
We have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled and misguided are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a rundown community. And you and I are in a double trap, because not only do we lose by taking our money someplace else and spending it, when we try and spend it in our own community, we're trapped because we haven't had sense enough to set up stores and control the businesses of our community. The man who's controlling the stores in our community is a man who doesn't look like we do. He's a man who doesn't even live in the community. So you and I, even when we try and spend our money in the block where we live or the area where we live, we're spending it with a man who, when the sun goes down, takes that basket full of money in another part of the town.
I do agree that the Black community should invest more of their money back into the Black community, Black businesses, rather than other races. But I think what's more important than focusing on spending your money is focusing on saving. I read this article by Alfred Edmond Jr. on blackenterprise.com, and it explains this idea very well. As of 2017, 21.2% of the African American population was living below the poverty line, compared to 8.7% of white Americans and 12.3% of all races combined. Alfred says that a poverty creation lifestyle is spending more than you make, regardless of income, and paying interest and fees to cover the difference. After providing for basic necessities, and sometimes instead of doing so, spending income on high-priced, low-value, depreciating assets such as shoes, cars, jewelry, and so on. The priorities of this lifestyle are needs first, and sometimes second, luxury second, sometimes first, and savings and investing last or never at all. He says what would help raise the Black economy is a wealth creation lifestyle, where you spend less than what you make regardless of income, then save and invest the difference, earning interest, dividends, and capital gains. Invest as much as possible in sensibly priced appreciating assets such as stocks, bonds, real estate, so on. The priority should be needs first, sometimes second, savings and investing second, sometimes first, and luxuries last or never. I think it's unfair to say that America's economy is equal to all races and that anybody can just pick themselves up out of poverty. In a system that was created to keep Black people and most other minorities poor, it needs to be a combined effort by Black people to educate themselves financially, invest in themselves, budget, and for non-Black people, specifically white people, to recognize that they live in a system where it unfairly benefits them, check their privilege, educate themselves on the importance of diversity, and be open-minded in the workplace and the education system. I find this topic really interesting, and I'm really curious to know what you guys think about it. Please let me know in the comments, and until next time.
Oh yeah. Two-step. Oh yeah.